Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. No.
What do you think?
I was trying, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think. Okay. I don't think we can. We don't necessarily need to give too much of the context as to, Lesotho being a southern African mountainous country. I think we could jump straight into the concerns as part of the context for the program. So the concerns being, well, that would be my position. We'd save a lot of time to just jump straight and say, okay, the reason we're looking at Lesotho is because of Highland Lakes and the problems that the problems that they're facing.
Okay,
So
perfect.
just jump straight into the concerns, and then I imagine later on we're going to be addressing those concerns, or are the other questions focused on
There's
other?
there's a little section on the future, but it's really looking at Lesotho Highlands Water Project. What is it? What is the social injustices there, and then what is the exacerbation of climate change?
I was going to give just a brief historical explanation, because I think it's quite important that it's an apartheid project.
No. Sorry. In that case, I'm off mark. Then then I think it's fine that we do have some deeper context.
It's a slightly different case because we're not really moving into the solution space, right? Is that something that you might be able to address in future? In
I wanted to
section?
just touch on some of the things that communities are benefiting from the project, but also how they're being obviously adversely affected, and things that they could potentially do, things that we need to consider.
Yeah, that's great.
That was what I was...
Can I just do a quick one? So basically the sequence that we're going to be speaking about now is the Lesotho in the context, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we're going to move through into background and benefits of the same kind of program that's at place in Lesotho, or the same part of the study, or...
So I conflated everything there, but what I should have done is just spoken about Lesotho being a vulnerable country, some of the challenges.
The reason I'm asking is because in that case, let's just let George go through them without breaking up into seven.
Okay, yeah.
Let's just let you talk about it. I'd much rather just have you
Okay.
get into it and talk through it.
Because I haven't posed questions, I'm sorry, it's harder.
No.
Yeah.
I think it'd be much better for the edit as well, and that's much more. We don't want to break this up.
Okay.
So let's one more time kick into it straight from Lesotho, and then just tell us about
The whole thing.
And we're going to try and keep this to 6 minutes if we can.
Okay.
Well, let's cut through it, because that would be the... Let's keep it to 6 minutes, and then, well, maybe even 7, and we can talk about the future as well.
Yeah, if you think I've missed something that you can prompt me, and then I...
Yeah. All right, well... Oh. That's my boy.
Oh, I covered there.
All right. And we're rolling.
So it's really interesting to look at the relationship between social justice, water and security, water and climate change in the context of Lesotho in Southern Africa. As we know, Southern Africa is one of the regions that is most vulnerable and susceptible to climate variability and climate change, and adversely so because of high levels of poverty and insecurity in the region. And also poor governance and weak capabilities within governance structures in the economic sphere and development sphere and so forth. So it's a very interesting case study specifically as well, because it's a transnational attempt at cooperation between South Africa and Lesotho. And it emerged in the apartheid era, which makes it is another facet of why it's interesting, because here was a government that was using its power within the region to exploit the dominant resource, not the only, but the dominant resource that Lesotho has, to benefit what was then white industry within South Africa and white residences within South Africa, and claimed that it would be beneficial to Lesotho because it would deliver hydroelectric power, opportunities for job creation and development within Lesotho. And yet we're seeing that actually hasn't happened. And in the post-apartheid era, the anticipation that the Lesotho Highlands project would also deliver water to poorer communities within Gauteng, which is where the dominant water flow comes into South Africa, to benefit poorer communities within South Africa, has also not been realised. So it continues to be primarily towards the existing industrial structures and companies. The Lesotho Highlands project has been developed in phases. It's been supported by external actors. It's a 4-phase programme, and 2 phases, I believe, have been completed. And so any analysis has so far been in response to experience from the development of those 2 phases. billions of rand have been spent on this project, and it has been driven heavily by South Africa. But touching on some of the examples that I've given around corruption and poor governance and so forth, we've seen a lot of that money being siphoned off and not reaching the communities that have been affected by dam construction. So in Lesotho, what we found in particular areas are that there's been forced relocations and resettlement from mountainous communities, small village communities that have then effectively had their livelihoods taken away from them. And in addition, have lost access to ancestral lands. And we often forget the importance of people's cultural and connection to the land, and the importance of I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And then should I just carry on when I mess up?
Yeah, let's just carry on from there. You know, I mean,
okay.
One more time.
I mean,
Look, I'm happy.
Sorry.
No. Look, let's do it one more time. And if you fall into
a waiver,
just stop, have a breath, and just carry on from where you left off.
Okay.
But let's start that out one more time, because I get a feeling that you're really loosening into the flow of words now. It's actually coming. You're really hitting all the points. So let's start that out from the beginning of the Lesotho section context. And and then so basically as we've gone through, and you're doing a fantastic job. So Lesotho, the LHWP, social injustices, and then.
Yeah, and if you are starting to feel like you're gonna stumble, then just slow down, stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you wanna, exactly. There's no problem having a cut or a break.
Okay.
But let's just.
Okay.
All right.
Great. Thank you. Okay. So we're interested in looking at this issue of water in relation to climate change, specifically in Southern Africa. And the example that I want to talk about is the Lesotho Highlands Water Project, in particular as a case study. It's an interesting case study for reasons that I'll come to in a second. But just more broadly talking about Southern Africa as a region to explain its significance, especially in relation to social justice and climate change, is that over time, Southern Africa is becoming more and more prone to water vulnerability, water scarcity, and in some instances, water stress. And so there have been efforts, South Africa that's already struggles with accessing enough water, has tried historically in this particular instance in the apartheid era to establish transfer schemes from neighbouring countries, specifically Lesotho, to feed industry and residencies within the Gauteng province, where most of the mining and industry in South Africa happens. The idea being that it would support South African economy, and in return, Lesotho, being a very small, impoverished country, would benefit from royalties from the project and potential for hydroelectric power and community development, job creation and so forth. So this was kind of the idea around the development of the Lesotho Highlands Water Project back in the 80s, although there were earlier attempts to create such programmes. And it's a 4-phase project that involves the creation of 6 dams. It's one of the largest dam construction programmes in the world, and billions of rands have been spent on this programme. With, as I've suggested, the intention that the revenue would be returned to Lesotho, some of which it has contributed in some